the ego is just like the tip of the iceberg. The moment we connect to our soul, it's becoming connected. You become connected with the iceberg. You become a bigger being. You expand. And so let's go to the aesthetic, because the aesthetic is another way of expanding your being, because the aesthetic has to do with the cosmic principles. No? The cosmic principles that have to do with perception. We can look at some of the slides that are example of rhythm, because I can talk about rhythm first. Aesthetics is so broad. Aesthetics is a broad concept that contains not only, yeah, we can begin with the lantern of San Fernando. Yes, you can see here. This is a very good example of something aesthetic. And as I said, just to review, anything creative connects you to your soul. Connecting to the soul means you are not connected only to the tip of the iceberg, but to the iceberg as a whole. At the same time, cosmic principles are what you find in the aesthetic. The aesthetic actually is based on cosmic order, cosmic ways of organizing, you know? Because you find aesthetic in the galaxy, in tornadoes, in the spiral of the storms, in seashells, in the spiral formation of flowers, in the way rabbits multiply. Aesthetics is aesthetics is a set of cosmic principles. And among the most important elements, no? Among the most important elements of aesthetics are balance. That's the most basic, is balance. Harmony, proportion, rhythm, and emphasis. Look at balance. You cannot be strong without balance. Nothing stands without balance. If one foot is shorter or longer, I don't think you can run very well. And the best swimmers in the world have very balanced shoulders, very balanced arms. This is the most important, the most basic aesthetic principle, balance, because nothing will stand without balance. I'm sure some of you are aware that the most beautiful women and the most handsome men in the world are very good examples of balance. Balance of the symmetry of the eyes, symmetry of the ears, symmetry of the shoulders, symmetry. Everything is almost symmetrical, almost perfectly symmetrical, with a little imperfection, but the more symmetrical you are, the more beautiful or handsome you are. This is all over the world. This is not a matter of taste. Look at this lantern. There's so much balance because it's a circle, and there's so much harmony of forms, and there's so much rhythm. You go around it, you experience the rhythm. Next slide. You can go to the next slide. The next slide will contain, can we move on to the next slide? Yeah, look at the rhythms here in the beam ends of this Maranao house of the Sultan. And let's go to the next slide. Next slide will contain also, yeah, look at this. This is an Ilocano weaving. Of course, it's all over the world. Weaving traditions are usually very good examples, not only of harmony, but rhythm. There's some kind of periodicity. If you look at the table of chemical elements discovered by Mendeleev, that Russian chemist, you'll find that there is so much rhythm in the periodic elements. Anything rhythmic is good for health. I was saying that balance is the supreme principle of aesthetics, but rhythm is a very, very basic one. Look at the rhythm here. Rhythm is something period. Yeah, this is also another example. This is Maguindanao Malong or tube skirt. Look at the rhythm. Look at the rhythm means periodic alternation of accents and intervals, stresses and distressed and the unstressed, stress, unstressed, or accent interval, accent interval. Like when you have music like this. Anything rhythmic makes you dance. I'm sure you will tap your foot with anything rhythmic, like even what you find in the, well, you saw Sound of Music. you will feel like walking with Maria in the sound of music once you hear the rhythm of that do idea. No, well, next slide, please. You can see the rhythm also of this banig mat from Maguindanao of Maguindanao province. Next slide, please. You can see the rhythm, the harmony. Yeah, this is also Maguindanao. And rhythm is actually the aesthetic principle for well-being, because anything rhythmic corresponds to well-being. Try that. Try to do anything rhythmic. For example, laughter. Genuine laughter is always rhythmic. Ha 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 ha. He 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 he. Ho 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 ho. Unless you're forced to laugh. If you're only forced to laugh, forced laughter is not rhythmic. Ha 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 ha. It's not rhythmic. But anything genuine and genuine laughter is always rhythmic. Because when you feel good, when you feel happy, joyful, naturally you will do something rhythmic. You have no choice about that. We are programmed to perform rhythm whenever we are happy, whenever we are joyful. When you are at your happiest, during your happiest moments, you cannot avoid singing or dancing, because that's how we are programmed. Because anything that is really an expression of well-being brings about rhythmic behavior, and vice versa. If you behave rhythmically, even if you are not really happy, you'll feel better. Try to do it. If you are sad, if you are depressed, do something rhythmic, and in a short while you'll feel good. This is universal. There's no exception. There's a school. There are many schools now all over the world, but well, not so much in the US, but in Europe or in Asia, especially in India, there is a school of thought called laughter yoga. Usually, you find enrolled in this laughter yoga courses are businessmen who suffer from so much tension and ulcers and anxiety. You know, they are made to laugh for 1 hour, even if they are not really in the mood to laugh. They are really made to laugh, and after some time, they really are laughing, and after 1 hour, many of their ailments disappear. No, because laughter boosts blood flow to the brain, and it makes you much more relaxed. There's really something physiologically happening to you when you laugh. Not only laughter, music, dance. The best exercise is dance. More than calisthenics, more than endurance exercises. Dances are also the best exercises, because they not only make you feel well, but increases your dances make you more balanced, no? Increase your sense of balance. You can go on. I can show you the next slide, please. Yeah, rhythmically, silversmithing of Apalit Pampanga, our national living treasure, Eddie Muto. It's a good silversmith. You can see so much rhythm here, and so on. We can go on. Yeah, but Maranaw Kunintang stand, no, so beautiful. Next slide, please. Yeah, the arrow dances. We can go on and just quickly through these dances. Yes, dance is the best form of exercise according to doctors. Yes, these Mariones. Yes, of course, can we go on? Our pahiyas and other. Yes, look at the rhythm. This is rhythmic progression. What is rhythmic progression? Hiyang. Actually, Hiyang as a method of healing in the Philippines uses progression most. What is progression? It's a very good way of illustrating progression. Can you see that there is a gradual decrease in size from the top to the bottom? There's a gradual decrease in size from top to bottom, or from bottom to top, there's a gradual increase in size. This is the meaning of progression. For example, if I do a rhythm that is quite fast, and make it slower and slower, that's progression, rhythmic progression. Or if I have something slow, if I accelerate, that's rhythmic progression also. Rhythmic progression means accelerating or decelerating. This is the most important method of Hiyang. Why? Can we go to the next slide? Maybe there's a explanation there. Well, anyway, this is paper mache from Paete, Laguna, made of newspapers. Paper mache, next slide, please. Still another example of paper mache made of newspapers. You might, okay, I can go on. Let's go to the, yes, look, yes. Before we go to the gradual, wait, can we go back? Go back, please. Can we go back? Yes, here. Yes, go back one more, please. One more. Yeah, this is, okay. You can see that in our communal cultures, people are more relaxed. People in communal cultures are very close to one another. The closer you are to other people, the more relaxed you are. And being relaxed means you are feeling okay, no? That means you are not anxious, you are not tense. So the being relaxed means feeling a degree of well-being. The more relaxed you are, the more you will express rhythm. Because as I said earlier, there is always a universal correlation between well-being and rhythm. So the more relaxed you are, the more you will be rhythmic and musical, and hence satisfying an important precondition for health. Filipino musicality has its source in our deep attitude of openness, trust, and acceptance of life. This is the secret of Filipinos. We are so relaxed. Why are we so relaxed? Because we love to connect to people. The more you connect, the more connected you are to people, the more relaxed you are because you feel secure. You can trust people around you because you feel connected, especially within the family. This is the secret of the Filipinos. That's why we are very musical. That's why our excellence in the performing arts is legendary. You know, Filipinos are not time obsessed. Sabi nga nila, mayroong Filipino time. Well, maybe we are not so prompt, but that is better because being not so strict about time is good on the side of health. As a positive side, we are more on the side of health when we are not strictly on time. But Filipinos know how to be strictly on time when necessary. But most of the time, he allows a little late or earlier, a few minutes, no? But definitely, being so strict with time is not good for health, no? You have to be more flexible about it. So can we go to the next slide? The next slide will show you that this is what I was saying, rhythm and well-being are always together. Hence, one can bring about the other. The greater your sense of well-being, the higher the degree of rhythmic behavior manifested, and vice versa. The more rhythmic your behavior is, the more well-being you will experience. That's why the highest levels of joy and well-being tend to be expressed in the highest form of rhythm human beings create. In other words, you are so happy, you have no choice. You will always sing or dance. This is our programming. Next slide, please. So the correlation of rhythm with well-being is not difficult to validate. Just consider the enjoyment and health benefit that people throughout the world seem to derive from dancing of all kinds. Laughing, which is always rhythmic, increases respiration and blood flow to the brain, boosts the immune system, and increases a general sense of well-being. Try to laugh every day. Without laughter, I think you will be less and less healthy. No? Next slide, please. So you can see here, this is what I was saying. I gave you the example of rhythmic acceleration and rhythmic deceleration. When you wake up, it's best not to get up from bed, no? The best way is not to abruptly stand, get up right away. That's very, very bad for health because you don't give the time for your blood, no, to change its speed, no? So the body, you have to give time to the brain and your heart to gradually adjust to your different position, So you must not abruptly stand when you are in a hurry to wake up. This is the most important method of Hiyang gradualism, rhythmic progression. Because if everything is alive and sensitive, it's demanded of us that we approach everything in as gentle, caring, and caressing manner as possible. That's why gradualism is the method of Hiyang. Opposites should not be made to clash. That's when you are lying down, Do not stand up right away. Gradually, maybe you start sitting down, sitting up, say sitting on the bed, no? You sit up on the bed and gradually position yourself to stand. Maybe take 1 or 2 minutes before you do that, no? Before you fully stand up. So you make opposites meet each other gradually, each side modifying itself to become more and more like the other. Next slide, please. I'll give you an example. The attitude here is one of mutual respect and sensitivity, thus one of mutual and reciprocal action. One gets sick or suffers loss of vitality if you come from a very hot place and immediately enter a very cold place. There should be a gradual transition from one to the other. From a very hot place, there has to be an intermediate place where it's not really cold, not really hot. So there's a gradual transition from hot to cold. Washing one's side eyes or hands immediately after a hard day's work can cause blurring of vision, if not blindness, or trembling of the hands. That's what we call pasma. So before you wash your hands, if your hands are very tired, before you wash them, you make sure that the water is not cold, or maybe you heat the water so that the temperature of the water will equal the temperature of your hands. That's why there will be harmony. No? So next slide, please. This is the meaning of gradualism. You do it slowly. Well, I think even in love, that holds true. Because when you court somebody, you don't just say, when you meet somebody for the first time, you don't just say, I love you, when you just meet for the first time. So you do it gradually so that you don't shock the other person. I think this applies to many, many things. Driving a car, you should not step on the brake right away. You should gradually decelerate before you step on the brake. Otherwise, you will destroy the lining, the brake lining. No, it's also, in other words, even a jackrabbit start for the car is very bad for the car. A jackrabbit, where you release the clutch immediately, stepping on the gas and release the clutch immediately. That is jackrabbit start. And that jeepney drivers are guilty of that. They don't know how to accelerate. They suddenly, suddenly release the clutch, and so the jeepney suddenly shoots, forward. Okay, now one of the most important functions of aesthetics is to open your mind. When somebody is lecturing and you just lead your lecture afterwards, because especially when you don't have face-to-face contact, when the participants in the audience cannot see your face because you're looking at something, you're reading your script, or when you cannot see the faces, when you're the lecturer, you cannot see the faces of your people, of the people listening, you cannot interact, you cannot make them part of what you're doing. So they will not become involved. They'll be involved in what you're doing. And even if you are doing everything to perhaps involve them, after some time, they'll get bored, they'll get tired. You cannot just be speaking all throughout because their mind will soon become closed. Will not admit any new idea because they're so tired. Even if you're trying to really entertain them or make them participants in what you're doing and full eye contact, that's okay. But after some time, especially after 15 to 20 minutes, they still get tired listening. So what do? You ad-lib, you introduce something different, you introduce maybe an anecdote or a story or a joke. Joke is aesthetic because it uses balance, it uses emphasis, it uses rhythm, it uses surprise, and that means you will wake them up because you are opening the mind. Anything aesthetic opens the mind, and when you open the mind, it can become again open to your ideas, open to whatever you are saying. It's not difficult to demonstrate here. Let's read. It's not difficult to demonstrate. Any message penetrates the mind more readily if it is presented through aesthetic form. Kenneth Scollion, in his essay, The Super Channels of Communication, gives contrasting examples of the opening of the book of Genesis from the King James Version of the Bible. The first one is a strip of all aesthetic principles. Tanggalan nyo. You remove the rhythm, harmony, emphasis. Remove all the aesthetic principles. And this is what will happen. Next slide, please. Yeah. without aesthetics, without rhythm, without balance, without contrast and repetition, without harmony, without emphasis, without focus, without order. Here, first of all, God made heaven and earth. The earth was not any specific entity. There was just water in the dark. Then the Spirit of God came along and passed over the surface of the water. Then God ordered light to come into existence, and it did. Well, of course, you understand it's intelligible enough because the words are simple, but somehow there's something lacking. You know, the moment you put in the aesthetic way, you not only understand what's being said, you also feel it. Because anything aesthetic appeals not only to the mind, not only to the senses, but also the emotions and to your whole being. Because the aesthetic, as I said, comes from your soul and comes from the entire cosmos. So it gets your full attention. This is the meaning of aesthetics. So let's look at what Collion said. The events were accurately reported in the above version, but the full content could not pass through, could not squeeze through. Listen now to the genesis in the words of a great literary artist. Well, this is from the King James Version. Fully harnessing aesthetic forms that make the arts the super channels of communication. If you are studying communication, aesthetics is the very basis of communication. In the beginning, God created the heaven and the earth. And the earth was without form and void. And the darkness was upon the face of the deep. And the Spirit of God moved upon the face of the waters. And God said, let there be light. And there was light. Look at the build-up. Look at the use of contrast without form and void, heaven and earth. These are contrasts, no? In the beginning. And then at the end, there was light. How systematic, how ordered, but not a mathematical order. This is the order of life, the order of vitality. Mathematical order is the most boring of all because it's so predictable. Anything aesthetic is both predictable and not predictable because it contains always the element of something constant at the same time. There's something unexpected. That's always the nature of the aesthetic, both predictable and unpredictable. That's why it makes you feel alive. Next slide, please, by Kenneth Scollion. According to him, the full awesome content now emerges because the rich sound and stately rhythm provide an adequate aesthetic channel for its many levels of significance, which mere words cannot. What are the levels of significance? Sensuous, emotional or expressive, and mental or formal levels. These are the three main levels of aesthetic, meaning sensuous, emotional, and intellectual. Yes, next slide, please. What's happening now in modern life? In modern life, people hardly have rhythm. You wake up and you realize you're late for the office, and you jerk yourself to stand up. What will happen? There's no rhythm. There's no rhythmic progression, and people after eating, immediately drink cold water, and so what will happen to what you are digesting? You are digesting food that's full of oil, so you'll make the oil like lard and will stiffen, and you are not helping your digestive system to melt the lard because it's now stiff. It's like having lard frozen in the refrigerator. So the moment you drink water immediately after eating, you don't have your digestive system, especially you drink soft drinks. Well, you don't do that after immediate. I mean, there are so many abrupt things that we do in everyday life. Suddenly you feel that it's deadline for paying your income taxes and you rush to the office of the revenue, Internal Revenue Office or BIR, and you have no time for transition, no? So we become unbalanced. Abrupt changes imperil health. Unlike before, when we eat, we converse, we eat gradually, we don't just stuff our mouths with food and then do something else after that. We eat gradually, converse with the family, we enjoy eating. It's a very gradual process of eating until you are filled with food. And then after that, you continue talking. Now we overschedule and undersleep, and stress appears as if it's normal. Stress is not normal. Depression, heart disease, and cancer are not normal. They are warning signals for our bodies to show, to tell us that we are, we are living wrongly. We are not following a healthy lifestyle. This is the message of our bodies. That means we are not being aesthetic. The aesthetic principles are ways of living correctly. All of them are life enhancing. All of the aesthetic principles are life enhancing. Anyway, we have no time to discuss fully. I teach aesthetics for one whole semester, so maybe we have no time to fully discuss all the aesthetic principles now, but I just gave you an idea. Aesthetics, by the way, is not art. Aesthetics is a tool of art, in the same way that mathematics is a tool of science. Yes, you may now continue. And well, let's now go to myths. Myths are another way of healing, extending our beings. Myths affirm our soul identity. As I said, the aesthetic connects us to our soul, but not only that, the aesthetic is really cosmic. So it connects us to the cosmos, but myths specifically affirms our soul identity. Why? Because myths enable us to connect to the archetypes. Archetypes are different strengths, different skills, no? The repository archetypes are found in collective unconscious, which is the home of the soul of humanity. All of humanity has a soul, and this is in their collective unconscious, termed by Carl Jung as the collective unconscious. Although, although there are many other terms for this, Plato called that the level of ideas, you know, the world of forms or ideas, and even Rupert Sheldrake calls that morphic fields. There's so many terms for this. But if you become one with the human soul or the collective unconscious, you now have a whole um, type, the whole collection of many different types of being, types of identity that you can identify with. You may identify with any of the archetypes or prototypes of being, prototypes of life that you may need at every particular moment. For example, um, one of the archetypes there is the mother archetype. When you identify with, when you become so, this is one way, you know. How do you trigger the mother archetype? If you are so conscientious about being a mother, so loyal, so dutiful, so loving, so caring about a mother, you become one with the mother archetype, which means you become one with the experience of all mothers from the very beginning of time until now. So the moment you become one with the mother archetype, you will become a great mother. You'll become strong. You'll become a very good example of a mother. No? I'm sure some of you have felt that by being a very good mother, you become a great mother. So this is the meaning of identifying with the archetype. You can become a hero. You become a superior person. Become strong in any kind of skill. An engineer, a scientist, an artist. Once you vibrate with the archetype, with the corresponding archetype. But as I said, one of the secrets to vibrating with the archetype that you need at a given moment, you just become determined to become as good as possible in that field, and you will be able to summon the archetype that you need. No, so we are able to transcend our ego. We are not anymore a limited self. We become much larger than our personal self, and identify with the archetype that resonates with our individual soul, because you are now contacting the bigger soul of humanity, which is a repository of all the archetypes that humanity has ever experienced from the very beginning until now. So we go to the mythical. What I would like to emphasize in the mythical is how we may transcend the experience of time's passage. Well, myths are ideas or images in terms of which people make sense of their world. They have immense power over our lives. But what is important for us right now is to look at how myths can enable us to transcend time. Next slide, please. Uh, Look, whenever you identify with any mythical story like Ramayana, Thor, mythical figure in Scandinavian countries like Sweden, and Beauty and the Beast, Lord of the Rings, even Empire Strikes Back in the Star Wars. These are all mythical. These are all archetypal. You identify with the Lord of the Rings. Who's the Lord of the Rings? That's the king archetype. No? When you like to, when you become a noble person, you bring out the kagitingan, you bring out, try to bring out the heroic in you, noble, by serving all your people, all the people around you. You may be able to identify with the Lord of the Rings. Oh, the Lord of the Rings means the king archetype. You identify with the king within you, no? And that's why in the Lord of the Rings, only the king could wear the ring without being corrupted, because he is a noble character. Now, somebody who is less than noble is either corrupted, because if somebody is corrupt and he wears the ring, he becomes even more corrupt. That's why only the king, no, the noble king can wear the Lord of the Rings without being corrupted. So these are the different, some of the different archetypes, like this. And in the Philippines, we have the archetype of Sikalak and the Sikalak, the first man, and the Sikabay, the first woman. And there are many other archetypes like Lamang, the Ilocano. So next slide, please. We can go to the next slide. Or even Baltog and Oriol of Bicol, of the Handyong epic of Bicol. We have so many archetypes. We have so many epics in the Philippines. Epics usually are about heroes, are about archetypal figures. Next slide, please. Um, so even Kudaman of Palawan. Next slide, please. Kudaman. There's a growing body of work on what psychologists call self-transcendent experiences. This says a transient moment when people feel lifted above the hustle and bustle of daily life. This happens because when you identify with one archetype, you transcend the ordinary time, you transcend clock time. You become one with all the time periods from the very beginning of time until now. So it's a very, very big time period, and you will not experience this day-to-day events anymore. You become part of an almost timeless realm, no, of being. Your sense of self fades away. You become part of the larger humanity. So in such states, people typically report feelings of awe and rapture, of time stopping. You feel so inspired. You feel a sense of unity with other people, nature, God, or the universe. I'm sure you could have experienced it when you were watching Beauty and the Beast, when you identified with Bill, or you identified with the Beast, or who became the prince. You identified with something bigger than you, and you lost your sense of self, your separateness. You lost your sense of separated. When somebody identifies with Cinderella, you lose your sense of self. You become one with Cinderella. Next slide, please. This is you will have major transcendent experience where your sense of self is small, is your ego, in other words, your small sense of self completely dissolved, and you will at one with the universe. This can happen while listening to a beautiful piece of music, taking a walk to the woods, or attending a religious service. No? There are many instances where you can experience this transcendence of time. Next slide, please. Yes. When you're weaving and producing something as beautiful as this Ilocano weaving, next slide, please, or doing something like this, a yakan weave, next slide, please. You can, yes, when you are finishing, look at the Tiboli people of South Cotabato, they're so healthy, emotionally, spiritually, because they're so creative in their everyday life. In their everyday life, they do things like this. Designs like this, according to the body, come from their dreams. Dreams meaning this come from their archetype, the archetypal weaver. They identify with the archetypal weaver, the weaver of all time. Imagine the weaver, the great weaver. You identify with the great weaver. So you get your ideas from the great weaver, the archetype of all weavers. So they have very beautiful weaves like this. And you become so fulfilled. You forget yourself. You become one with the weaver archetype. and you become healthier and healthier. So because you are able to transcend the passage of time. The more limited your sense of time, the more you identify with clock time, the more tense you are. You will see in the next slides. Next slides, according to look at this, how rhythmic, how creative. This is from the Sama people, Tawi Tawi. Next slide, please. Next slide. Yeah, look, many doctors say that if you identify so much with clock time, you will experience speeding clocks and vanishing time, causing your own biological rhythms to speed up, resulting in some form of heart sickness. So heart disease, high blood pressure, depression of our immune function, and susceptibility to infection and cancer. Next slide, please. Okay. And so if you're so aware of the passage of time, let's say you're always thinking of deadlines, eating only for survival, you hardly enjoy your meal because you're so aware of the passage of time, you will suffer from time syndrome. No? And they become sick very soon. Now, one cure for this is meditation. According to many doctors, when you meditate, your blood cholesterol levels fall by an average of 20%. You just meditate for 20, 30 minutes, and your blood cholesterol will fall by an average of 20% because you forget time. No, you become one with the timeless when you meditate. Next slide, please. Okay. Uh, Patients who have heart sickness resemble patients who are in chronic pain, and time-related anxiety can kill because your cholesterol level will rise, increase your respiratory rate will increase, there will be increased muscle tension of the body. It's like somebody who is, well, threatened by a murderer. Next slide, please. So how can we cure this time syndrome? Well, meditation, hypnosis, biofeedback, orthogenic therapy, progressive relaxation, imagery, visualization, but proven techniques for negating time are yoga, meditation, mantras, art, myth, especially poetry, rituals of our babaylans. Our traditional cultures are not time conscious. If we go to our Katutubo, our indigenous people, they don't even know their date of birth. This is quite good. Of course, they cannot apply for loan from GSIS or SSS, or they cannot possibly apply for passport because they don't even know their time of birth, their date of birth. But they become healthier because of that. I give the example of Dr. Jaime Galvestan, who is now living, well, he is now living temporarily away from his family in Quezon City. He's living temporarily among the Blaan of South Cotabato, Pulamulok, South Cotabato, because he is very interested in studying why almost 15% of the Blaan of South Cotabato live up to 100 or beyond. There are many people there who are 110, 112. He likes to discover the secret of these people. Well, from now, even now, I can tell you that one of the secrets is that they don't even know when they were born. So when they don't know when they are born, they don't count their age. You don't know that you're old. Even if you're 100, you don't know that you're 100. You may think that you're only 30. So you'll still work as if you were a 30-year-old person. Because the moment you stop working, the moment you retire, you really age. Because you no longer challenge your body, you no longer challenge your mind. So don't believe in retirement. Keep active until as long as you are capable of. In fact, you become more capable if you don't retire. Next slide, please. Rituals and celebrations, meditation, play, love, creative expression of all kinds are significant ways of attaining a sense of timelessness. The more you lose your sense of time, the more you become whole, the more you become healed. Next slide, please. The drone. The drone is a very important aspect of what? Indigenous music. Almost all indigenous music all over the world. You know why? Why are people very good in using timelessness to make themselves healthy? Well, because indigenous peoples are in tune with nature. the more attuned you are with nature, the more rhythmic you are, because nature is so rhythmic. Nature is a dance. Nature is so periodic. Nature is a dance. There are cycles. And the moment you become the moment you harmonize with nature, the more you know the rhythms of nature, and you lead a rhythmic life. That's why indigenous people are very rhythmic, and this contributes to their long life. And they also use the drone. The drone is what you hear in nature. Nature is only, it's not, nature is not only rhythmic, but it's full of drones. What is a drone? A drone is like, there's a constant hum, there's a constant sound, there's a constant undercurrent, no, of energy running through all natural phenomena. And this is a drone. The drone can be, can be heard in the om sound of you see, when you meditate, you say om, om, you do om like this, you make it long, om. That's a drone, no? When Johnny Midnight was popular during the 80s, no, he called it toning. It doesn't have to be a continuous sound, it can be an ostinato. Something. A periodic sound, no, or ostinato. It's also a drone, no. The drone, as in the phenomenon of continuous rain, river currents, insect buzz, frog calls, coca, 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 coca. These are drones. They always evoke timelessness because they have no beginning, middle, and end. In Indian music, together with the sitar being played by the star masters like Ravi Shankar, together with the different patterns played by the tabla or drum in Indian music, there's always the tambra. Tambra always accompanies any kind of music in India. What's the tambra? It's an instrument that plays nothing but a continuous sound. A continuous sound to simulate nature. Simulate nature because nature always has a drone, an undercurrent of energy, a certain constant, no? At the same time, over this constant, over the idea of permanence, there's always something changing. Nature is always a combination of permanence and change. That's why our katutubo instrument usually has two strings, the kutiapi. Has two strings, a combination of something that is always the same note, the drone, and one string that plays the same note over and over again, like ostinato, and another string that plays the melody or the changing notes. So our indigenous instruments are always the basic instruments are always a combination of the phenomena of the permanence and the change that you find in nature. And these really are very powerful inducers of well-being because you experience both in life. You experience both, something permanent, something passing, something changing, and something changing. No, next slide, please. Note, and the next slide, you will note. Oh, wait, go back. Please go back. Go back. Earlier, please. Earlier, yeah. So you will find so many drones in our traditional music. As I said, always you find not only our, but other countries in East Asia, Central Asia, South Asia, even Australian Aborigines will have instruments that combine both the drone and the melody part, no, the unchanging and the changing parts. And according to Michael Harner, who wrote On the Way of the Shaman, a particular type of ostinato or drone played on the drum can transport people to shamanic states of consciousness, as distinguished from ordinary states of consciousness. Why? Because the ostinato is a drone that evokes timelessness and therefore can alter your consciousness so that you can go to a higher state, higher level of consciousness away from the ordinary OSC, ordinary. Michael Harner calls it OSC, ordinary state of consciousness, as opposed to shamanic state of consciousness. Or we can call this shamanic state, Babaylanic state of consciousness, because our Babaylans are also experts in altered state of consciousness because they usually use music to play the drone together with what the melodies or the melody of the chant. No, the chant is most often accompanied by the drone. So all Filipino indigenous musical traditions are drone based. Can we listen to an example? Next slide. Sheila, can you play an example of the? Maybe you can play an example of the. Can you find a key to this? If not, look at here.
I believe, Prof, it was not.
Can I play it there? So, okay, I'll try to play it here. I'll try to play it here. No, maybe I can play it here.
Yeah,
May ano. I think that just in case. I'll be looking for that part here. Maybe I can. Okay. I'll try to play it here. I think it's here. Maybe do you think you can hear?
Not yet, Prof.
Okay. Wait, wait, dali ah. Here. Can you hear? Can you hear it? Can you hear it? Yes, I think that's enough. If you heard it, that's a very good example of Kalinga Gangsa music. And all over the country, we have that. It's either metal, using metal, strings, or bamboo. And usually a combination of permanence and change. That's very, very indigenous. And afterwards, maybe you will already be in a trance after dancing to that kind of music. You know, this is the reason why many of Filipinos in the provinces, in the rural areas, where you find this music, are psychic. They are usually psychic. They can see, they say they can see fairies, they can see duende, they can see, or even they can even see, I don't know if this is so, but they can even see tikbalang or aswang or something. They can see spirits, no? I think this is one of the reasons they have a lot of this experience of timelessness coming from the kind of music that they have or the lifestyle that they live. So this is the mythic, no? Mythic. We can go to the next slide, please. Yes. Next, can you go back a little? Go back one more. One more, please. One more. Sige pa, one. Go back, please. Let's go back. Wait.
Back, Prof.
Teka. No. Go back lang. Sige pa. Go back. Sige pa, one more. Okay, yeah. Yan. The drone is found not only among our Katutubo, among our indigenous peoples, but it's all over the world. All the religions use drones. Yeah. No, the next slide, please. Next slide. Next to that. Next. Yeah, there. Okay. All religions use drones. As I said, Katutubo, the drone, our indigenous peoples, is based on their indigenous spirituality, which we call animism, no? But Christians, Muslims, Buddhists all use drones. What are these drones? These are the drones that you find in their prayers. Prayer chants are drones. The Catholic Rosary has around 56 beads. Every bead is a way of marking the rhythm of the drone. Every bead is a way of passing to a sense of timelessness, because there is usually no sense of beginning, middle, and end. When you pray the Rosary, you just go on and on and on. There's hardly a sense of beginning, middle, and end, because you repeat, no? Repeat and repeat. Bago lang Maria, Hail Mary, O Lord Jesus, Son of God, have mercy on me. This is a constant uninterrupted calling upon the divine name of Jesus with the lips and the spirit and the heart, and can give one a deep feeling of consolation. You become one with God, no? With Allah, with Buddha, because you can feel the spiritual, no? Because you are putting yourself in a timeless state. This is what the drone, that is rosary prayer, no? Prayer using rosaries as drones, because you do that, no? Your hand touches the beads, so there is a tactile drone, and at the same time your prayer is a oral drone. So let's go to the next slide, please. Muslims have 99 beads, because there are 33 beads in each set, no? There are 3 sets of 33 beads, so 99 in all, which are about the beautiful names of Allah. So you can see, when you go to the 99 and when you repeat and repeat, you now go to a timeless state. Next slide, please. The names of Allah are all inscribed in many mosques and temples in Islam. Next slide, please. In Buddhism, you have more. In Buddhism, next slide, please. No. Let's go back to the Buddhism. Yes. In Buddhism, there are 108 beads. Imagine a drone of 108 beads. The 2 halves representing the 44 stage of becoming an enlightened one. The archbishop in the middle stands for Buddha. Well, before you can get back to the one in the middle, you have to go through 58. No, yeah, you have to go to 54, and then the head of the Buddha stands for the Buddha, then 54 again. It's quite long. This is the meaning of what? Transcendence. You become what? You become some kind of a timeless being. You hardly notice the passage of time. This is one way you can really expand yourself, because you not only expand because of what? Timelessness, but going to the next slide, you also become one with the biggest being of all. Because I said earlier that the assumption in Hiyang is that you no longer feel separate, you no longer are of the small finite self called the ego. You extend your being by harmonizing with other people. You harmonize with your creative soul. You harmonize with the cosmos, through the aesthetic, and you harmonize with the soul of humanity through archetypes. Here, you expand your being to an infinite level, because you become one with the creator, herself or himself. This is the ultimate expansion of self, ultimate transcendence of the ego. It's an affirmation of our true spiritual roots. It makes us immensely feel at peace with ourselves and the world. That's why identifying with the divine has inspired the greatest works of artists and philosophers throughout the ages. The Sistine Chapel, Borobudur, Prambanan Temple, the Sao Paulo of Brazil, the Great Pyramids, and so on. You know, how can anyone just working for money imagine creating such big monuments? No? If you are not inspired, you cannot create such big monuments as even the St. Peter's Cathedral. If you are not inspired by God, no? I don't think you can just do that for money. Right now, we don't create such majestic monuments anymore, simply because people are just working for money. People are not inspired to do big things like that. We are satisfied with the small business structures and markets and government offices, but nothing monumental. Just like nothing monumental as the Il Duomo, the Milan Cathedral, for example. I don't know of anything as monumental as these things because we are no longer as spiritual as before. Now, that's why I said that the ultimate identification will be with the infinite. And you feel so big that when you identify with God, not only because you experience a sense of timelessness, but you become one with something infinite, you feel so much solace. That's why people are willing to work for their charge, becoming one with Jesus Christ, and they experience profound meaning in their lives because they lose all sense of anxiety. They no longer feel troubled. They find infinite solace. This is the meaning of identifying with the biggest entity possible. So this is the mystical. Can you go to the next slide? I hope we can finish this. We can, yeah, anyway, we started late. This is the mystical, celebrating the noble and the sacred. The most profound ground of wellness is devotion to a source of power, energy, creative intelligence, wisdom, love, and compassion, infinitely greater than oneself. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. So as I was saying earlier, if the authentic, can you go back one slide? Can you please go back one slide? Yeah. If the authentic foundations of health, as I mentioned earlier, are those activities or experiences that enable you to transcend limited definition of self, then oneness with an infinite self is the ultimate source of wellness. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. And the Filipino is very good in identifying with the ultimate source of wellness because we have a concept of kalooban. This is a central Filipino concept where we identify with the divine inner core. Next slide, please. This is from a study of Dr. Susan Reyes from her dissertation. We identify with what we believe is a divine essence within, the creative living presence in the universe. So each one of us is a ray. If the infinite is a big infinite sun, then each one of us is a ray of God, ray of the creative living principle. Bawat isa sa atin ay sinag ng dakilang medika. Every person is a soul, an individual ray of this infinite source. This is the concept of kapwa. It's like this. If you think of the infinite as deep within us, if we identify with this core of our being, it's the God within, that's the core of our being, the creative living principle. Because God is within, it's not in the other planets, it's not in the physical universe, it's within. No? This is also an Indian belief. It's also a Buddhist belief. God is within. And if God is within, each one of us is a ray of this God. Ikaw, ako, all of us are grace. That's why this is the concept of kapwa. Concept of kapwa means or says, treat the other person as you treat yourself because the other person is also yourself. We are all one. That's why we feel a sense of responsibility to serve others because others are also us. When you are an individualist, you belong to another culture, which is individualistic, people think that they are separate from one another. So they have no duty or no responsibility to serve others because they think they are separate from one another. That's why the highest virtue is selfishness. That's why Ayn Rand came out with a book, a celebrated book in the US entitled The Virtue of Selfishness. That's the highest virtue in an individualistic culture. The highest kind of economy there is capitalism because you have no obligation to serve other people. Because you are separate from other people, the highest virtue is selfishness. That's individualism. In our culture, on the other hand, the highest virtue is to serve others because others are also yourself. This is the meaning of kapwa. Next slide, please. A very spiritual concept. So each one of us is a ray of God, and the ray consists of soul. The closest to God is your soul, then intuition, then feeling, then awareness, and then the farthest away from God is your physical body, where there's a dense concentration of energy, densest concentration of energy. So this is the constitution of every soul. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. So kapwa is an awareness of the rootedness of each one of us in the one divine essence within. All of humanity is one. That's why our concept of kapwa implies the golden rule of all the great religions. Treat your neighbor as you treat yourself, because your neighbor is yourself. This is the highest virtue of the Filipino. We know this very well. And this is true of all the great spiritual religions. Hinduism, Christianity, Islam, Buddhism, we're all one. Simply because we are all children of God. Next slide, please. We are not separate. This is not materialism. Materialism says that we are all separate. And being only a channel of divine goodness, inspiration, and creative energy, one must have an attitude of supreme humility. You cannot be arrogant. You are not better than others. People who are privileged to have power, to have wealth, think that they are better than others. No. This pandemic showed us that we are all equal, because the rich people, those who had power, so much power, who had so much wealth, could not even get out of the house. Who were getting out of who were serving us? Who really worked for us? The drivers, the garbage collectors, basurero, the linemen, the frontliners, the waiters. They're all there to serve us. You could say the farmers especially. Without them, we will not survive. We would not have survived this pandemic. This just shows you that we are all equal. Everybody has a role. Everybody is a child of God. And this is the reason why now there's no reason for one to be arrogant. Because the moment you are arrogant, you are becoming like a cancer cell in the whole human body, in the whole human body that is the collective soul of humanity. In the collective soul of humanity, called the collective unconscious, we become like a cancer, and will affect others to become also negative, become sick, and so on. And we will make others also sick with our example. Next slide, please. We are like cancer. Modern maladies like glorification of the individual ego and the obsession with commercial success. Obsession with commercial success are a guaranteed recipe for diseases of the cells like heart disease and cancer, because you are no longer in harmony with others. Next slide, please. That's why arrogance is a taboo in Philippine culture. Nobody has a right to regard themselves as above or more important than others. Humility is highly prized. That's why the law applies to all or none at all. Inclusiveness. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. That's why in Philippine society, law enforcers can only enforce the law by showing that they themselves are law-abiding. If they are not, they will have no moral authority to enforce it. Filipinos will simply ignore the law, yelling at law enforcers, "Kaila bang anak ng Diyos?" Ay nako, neswerte. Public officials who flaunt the law become the target of widespread ire and deep-seated resentment, because we are supposed to be all equal. Next slide, please. Because the moment you are arrogant, the moment you disobey, you are setting a bad example. People become lawbreakers. They break the law with impunity. Everybody, and soon everybody will become sick, because you become selfish. You become obsessed with power. You don't begin to serve others. You disconnect yourself from the larger whole, and you become sick. You'll become so insecure. Next slide, please. So humility is expected of everybody. Arrogance is frowned upon. One in the Philippines, one who talks about exam attributes success to God and to his own efforts. But of course, deep within, he knows that he was the one who was responsible for the success. But outwardly, you don't claim to be the one. No? Winners in sports typically credit their win to luck, as Classic Lorde, Manny Pacquiao, even Batarayas affected did. You will not witness among them the swagger and pathetic bragging about their powers of fighters like Rios, Margarito, Thurman, or Floyd Mayweather. Next slide, please. So, next slide, please. Yeah. So another way of achieving humility is to celebrate, create sacred rituals where people completely lose their sense of separateness from others and feel as one with the whole of creation. So I think we will have a last slide after this. Next slide, please. So yes. So what's the meaning of kapwa? The deeper meaning of kapwa. For many Filipinos, being together, particularly during feasts and celebrations, is a much sought after ritual that symbolizes the rich sense of humanity's psychic unity because we're all one. But in the midst of the social disruptions brought about by the pandemic, Filipinos will grasp at anything that will fulfill this desire for togetherness. Next slide, please. How? Next slide, please. Even if it's difficult for many Filipinos to observe social or physical distancing, which may cause quarantines or lockdown orders to be violated, we realize that the real meaning of pakikipagkapwa or oneness with others is to be concerned for the common good or its others' well-being. In this light, physical distancing becomes a must, becomes an act of kindness and consideration for others. The true meaning of kapwa, consideration for others. And even if we love to be together, we love to connect, we will be, I think Filipinos will become very good examples of loving kindness by observing physical distancing. We are among the most obedient when it comes to observing what's good for everybody because according to a survey, we are number one all over the world in wearing face shields. And all over the world, we are number 3 in wearing face masks. And in the whole of Asia, during the lockdown or the ECQ, we were highest in terms of staying just staying in the house compared to Malaysia, Singapore, Thailand, and Vietnam. We were really following the protocols. Not like what many were saying that we were pasaway. No, we were not pasaway. We were the exact opposite according to data. Next slide, please. I think this we're through with this. I think next slide. So that's the end, and I can show you the data gathered by Google, gathered by other communication agencies. But we were the most faithful to following lockdown orders during the pandemic compared to other Southeast Asian countries. And these are supported by data from other providers that, I was saying that we were number 1 in wearing face shields and number 3 all over the world in wearing face masks. I think many Filipinos really belong to the culture of kapwa, the culture of the common good, contrary to what we may hear from some functionaries from the government or other people, that we are not really pasaway.
Wow, I never.
We have completed more or less. We have completed the 4 categories for healing.
Yeah, I'm so happy that you were able to incorporate what we're all currently experiencing, Prof. And I totally agree with you about Filipinos being compliant. As a matter of fact, my friends who come from other countries have observed that the difference is dramatic in terms of our compliance and how the Europeans, the Americans would do it. Pero now I have a good explanation for them. It's because of pakikipagkapwa. It's actually our kindness and gentleness towards one another. How we're expressing our concern for other people as if they are
exactly
our loved ones. Yeah, napakaano po.
Even in the face of a rapidly changing world, yes, somehow bayan is still alive, especially during disasters, during typhoons, big disasters. Our concept of bayanihan comes out. The self-help attitude comes out, unlike what happened in the US during Katrina in New Orleans. They will not move until they get official orders from the above. But we don't need official orders from the above in order to start bayanihan. Because we are people of kapwa, we are concerned for the common good. We act for one another when needed, when really needed. That's how we are as people. Kapwa is very much alive still.
Yeah. In this topic, Prof, as we delve into the Filipino culture of healing, um, I it's so experiential for me, but I would still like to ask, how would you define for our viewers hiyang as a Filipino culture of healing? Because this is a significant or basic tenet of this particular
Yeah,
dynamic
of course.
culture.
Okay, thank you. Yang is the basic philosophy of healing, basic philosophy and practice of healing in our country. Hayang simply means uh, extending our being, expanding our being, so that we don't confine ourselves to that small self called ego. Ego is really a sense of separateness from others. No? And the more egoistic you are, the more insecure you become, the more anxious, the more stressed, the more tense you become. And the default attitude, the default behavior of anybody who is insecure, who is so full of ego, is power, obsession with power and obsession with wealth. No? Instead of becoming one with others. Now, Hiyang means, therefore, trying to transcend the ego by harmonizing, extending your being by harmonizing with people, connecting with people, understanding, empathizing with others so that you become full of malasakit, compassion for others. You serve not only yourself, but the larger whole. This is the meaning of kapwa, no? Serving the common good. Now, you become also young when you become creative, because we are co-creators with God, because if everybody is a child of God, then if God is the great creator and we are a child of God, then we are supposed to be also little creators. We are also co-creators with God, no? So the more creative we are, the more we become one with the great creator. So we expand our being, we become one with our soul, which is basically a creative agent. Our soul is the essential condition of the soul is creativity, no? And of course beauty, because our soul is connected with the spirit, the cosmic consciousness. And so anything aesthetic, the more we practice the aesthetic, the more we become one with the basic principle, basic structure of the cosmos, basic structure of the spiritual world. The entire cosmos is built aesthetically. The entire cosmos is built with, with a sense of vital order that we call the aesthetic. So become one with the cosmos when you are aesthetic. And then thirdly, Young identifying with the archetypes, with whatever archetype you need at the very moment, and if you really become determined to become an expert, to become good in one kind of identity, in one kind of skill, and you really work hard to become a good engineer, to become a good artist, to become a good mother, you will summon the archetype that will enable you to identify the great engineer, the great mother, meaning the experience of all the mothers all throughout history. And so you become even a greater mother than what you already are. No? You become a greater engineer, you become a great scientist. That's expanding yourself. Imagine connecting yourself to all, to all the human beings who experience a particular identity from the very beginning of time to now. No? So that will be the mythical. And the last one is the mystical. Mysticism means, mysticism means understanding that all things are connected. All things are connected. So mysticism is connecting the whole cosmos, especially to the very, very essence of creation, the God within. And it is the biggest meaning of Yang, identifying with the creator within. You call it the creative living principle, dakilang may likha, whatever you call it, force, no? And this is the cosmic creator in Buddhism, in Christianity, in Islam, in animism, in all the great religions. And this is the biggest identification, the biggest kind of harmony, the biggest way to transcend your limited ego. This is the meaning of Hiyang.
Wow. And what to me is most striking, Prof, as we summon that energy, is that it's deeply rooted in our heritage. To our
Yes, of course, very much.
no, it's not something that we summon from the outside. We just have to really get a good sense of it, because everything that we need to live harmoniously with and integrate with all levels of our being
Exactly.
and humanity, it's right inside
Yes.
us.
Just study the ways of the Filipino deeply and not superficially. Don't believe in those so-called things by hala. No. These are not Filipino. These are not Filipino. They come from foreigners. They came from many anthropologists, sociologists from the world to despise us, to think of themselves as higher than us. Don't believe in those myths. No, I'm sorry, I'm not using myth in the right way. Don't believe in these falsehoods. Hearsay about us, so-called bahala na as fatalism. No, bahala na is really responsibility. And so on, ningas gonhiya, and so on. Is pakikisama. Pakikisama is not a Filipino value. Now, look deeper. Look into the real meaning of malasakit, pagkikipagkapwa, the deeper meaning of utang na loob. Utang na loob, as known superficially, is not Filipino, it's Western. Utang na loob is not contractual obligation. Utang na loob is shared responsibility, like utang na loob, wag mong gawin yan. Utang na loob, wag mong salbahihin yung tao. Utang na loob, ikaw na ang mahala rito. Something like that, no? Utang na loob is something like a shared responsibility. Let's not look at the Filipinos superficially. If we look deep enough, all of the things that we need in order to practice Hiyang are in our cultures all over the country.
Wow. Indeed, Prof. We are healthier as individuals. It enhances our well-being, and it can help us definitely survive even a pandemic, like what we're through now. And thank you very
I just gave you one anecdote I have been receiving in the in social media. Masyado raw tayo, we're so resilient, even if the house is flooded inside out, they're still watching TV. So partly submerged in the flood. O kaya talking to each other in the middle of the street, drinking something or eating food in the middle of the street, where they put a table in the middle of the street. We're so resilient. But being resilient means we're too matiisin. We're so patient, no? This is really something that is good for survival. Of course, we must not be satisfied with good enough, but at the same time, look, because of this resilience, we are survivors. We are survivors, and whereas we were number 13 in population before, and Vietnam was number 12, we are now number 12, and Vietnam is number 13. That means our capacity for survival is so high. And this is the reason why I said that when it comes to the pandemic, I don't think we'll really be affected by that because of Hiyang and resiliency of the Filipinos.
Wow. Well, thank you for putting creating that mindset for us, Prof. It's always a privilege to experience your lectures, your discussions, and this is exactly what I would like to put out there. The experience of graduate students in your class as they listen to you and become kinder and gentler souls,
But
more in touch with their
I
sense
hope
of
it happens.
yes.
Sana nga, yeah, sana nga it will happen every time. Thank you.
Thank you.
That will make me happy if it really happens.
Oh,
Thank you.
the artists who are able to watch this this discussion, well, this lecture, the students, the professionals, I'm sure this is going to be an enriching experience. And as we have this live session every Wednesday, Prof, a lot of people can even share the discussions that come from you. Of course, they can find you at Asian Social Institute, where you teach which class now, Prof?
Well, this young, I teach this almost for one whole semester. But we just abbreviated it in 2 meetings.
Oh,
I teach what I teach now is language and social transformation. But every second semester, I teach more courses like methodology and institutional dynamics, semiotics, and accompanying people's movement
wow.
every second semester.
And then
And
to
well, thank you also for inviting me. Thank you also for giving me the chance to, well, share my understanding of society, culture, and humanity in well, in having experience, no, all of this for a long time now, and this is a chance to share everything. Except that sometimes, because of the time constraint, sometimes I'm in a hurry to impart, and so we cannot be so leisurely, unlike in a classroom. But okay, I'll try to be. Let's try to,
I really
I'll try to be realistic. There's really no need to hurry. They really need to hurry because what is important is to be able to share even a few things,
yeah.
not to cram everything in 1 hour.
There's
because
a lot to learn from
because
you.
at the heart at the heart of a lecturer like me, we like to finish the course, or we like to finish the topic. We like to cram everything into a very short time, but I suppose that's not really advisable given the time constraint. So maybe we should be happy in just sharing a few ideas and then have another session for the next.
Yes. Pero
Oh,
I didn't want to interrupt earlier kasi I don't want to diminish the value of this lecture, this discussion. And those who are watching, I've listened to Professor De Leon a number of times. I've attended many of his classes and I never get tired listening to him again and again because he always evolves the lessons. And Prof, thank you for
thank
always
you.
putting me on top of my game by shaping my thoughts to be clearer. I hope the others feel, I'm sure they feel the same way.
Well, I hope also that I can express myself as clearly as you do. Thank you. Language is your gift. Language is your gift.
I hope for the
Thank
best,
you.
Prof. And
Oh,
thank you. I'll see you
thank
again
you.
next Wednesday,
Thank
Prof.
you.
So
Wednesday.
our viewers, followers of TalkShop Facebook, you can catch Professor De Leon every Wednesday, Wellness Wednesday of
Yes.
TalkShop. Next week again, as we share with you some life changing discussions and facets of our culture. Thank you very
Yes.
much, Prof, and
Thank you
have
very
a
much.
great
Yes.
evening.
Yes. Thank you. Thank you, Sheila. Bye. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.